And yeah, talking about Adult Swim, fucking the new Adult Swim. It's kind of like the new FX animation. There's like it's it doesn't it's kind of that new style or either that or experimental. That's what I like about some of the FX stuff. It's kind of experimental animation and everything, but it's not derivative, but I almost dare to say I would prefer some derivative shit over some of the stuff that they put out.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've gotten a far cry from traditional animation. Maybe
Yeah.
that's the big difference is a lot of things are just done on computers now, so they don't have that feel
Mm,
like things from when we were younger.
absolutely. Absolutely. And on that note, hello, and welcome, one and all, to the Snide Show. I'm your host, as always, Corey the Curator, and I'm joined today with my good friend and colleague and a comedian that I greatly admire, Joe Bridges.
Hey, everybody. Hope you're having a good night in this chilly evening.
Yeah, right? Yeah, stay as warm as you can, folks, wherever you are. I know even in Texas they're feeling it right now. Um,
Yeah, they got snow in a lot of Florida.
mm, 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 what a world. What a world. Um, this is the Snide world, folks, and we're here to just offer some little views, some little takes, some little remarks and whatnot on the world as we see it. Try not to take it too seriously. Mix a little bit of cynicism with a little bit of absurdism. A good old spicy, sweet, sour confection for your ears from Snide Studios. This
Yeah,
is the Snide Show.
you can enjoy the umami of life.
That's right. Ooh, mommy. So, so moving on. Let me pull up my outline rather than this painful riff.
You know, umami comes from like Asian cuisine
Mm-hmm.
as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to the Latin American cuisine where they have I poppy.
and that's
Sorry.
and that's what I needed here, because this is a heavy episode. Not a lot of fun stories at all. Um, Starting with a little update on a show that you've actually been on, Joe. One of my most recent projects, the little Snide Show live spinoff known as the New River Valley Squeeze.
Yes,
Um,
sir.
yeah. That was some fun. That was some fun shit. It may have been the goat of the episodes that I did there. Because you really brought you and Dwayne both brought just like an amazing little. You want to talk about a mouge bouge? I mean, like, I didn't know whether I was coming or going. I almost wanted to just like walk out the stage and be like, "All right, you guys got this."
Dwayne was like just a wealth of knowledge.
Mm-hmm. Oh, he's like an encyclopedia, a metallic encyclopedia, and that's the kind of shit that I was trying to share. With not only our region, putting a little spotlight on our region. The folks from Appalachia and just below, the cool cats and characters out there, and just and out here, and share it with the rest of the world. But you know what? This little fucking doggy can't find a home. Can't find a home. We've kind of demonstrated we can catch some eyes and ears with that project. And, it's not only a business thing, it's also kind of like contributing to the community, contributing to the artistic landscape out here, kind of showing that there are alternatives to the, banjos and NASCAR, which, I mean, I mad respect to all of what goes into all that. But I was trying to, just kind of show a little different flavor, share a little different flavor. But between funding, venues, lining up things with guests, it's just it's all not gonna it's all not gonna happen without proper funding and monetization and stuff, which can't happen without the promise of some venues. It's kind of a little bit of a vicious cycle there between those two aspects of the production of it. So it's kind of hampered things for a little bit. I'm not going to say it's done. I've got plenty of clips, and I'm going to keep shopping that pitch around to these different businesses and stuff to see if we can, get this engine the fuel it needs. But that's not to say everything at Snide Studios is stopping. But the Snide show is kind of back to this format for now. Little freeform, little remote, mostly audio. For the folks watching at home, we don't have as many of the cool graphics and videos and stuff, which the whole video thing we'll get to in a second. But yeah, so that's the update on the new River Valley Squeeze. It's not done, it's just on hiatus. Consider what we have done season 1.
Yeah, think of it as cocooning for the moment, potentially blossoming into a beautiful butterfly in the near future.
Yeah, maybe I'll see if I can get the ones that we've done so far on some DVDs and see if we can get them into one of those bins at Walmart or something. Just like, could you imagine someone digging through and they find this little 2-disc set of like, what the fuck is this? The New River Valley Squeeze.
Yeah, I don't know what people honestly would think. It would really depend on how cool they are, because somebody might find it and watch it and be horrified, or somebody might find it and watch it and be totally enlightened and exposed to stuff they didn't even realize was around here.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because there's a rich comedy community. It keeps growing. The artistic community with all these experimental folks, not only from the universities and surrounding areas, but I've just been seeing so much cool outsider art. I'll come across it on Instagram and I'm like, this motherfucker's got like 12 followers. I'm like, this is amazing shit. Like, they're putting out a piece a day. It's like, I feel this almost responsibility, this documentarian responsibility to be like, I need to get some fucking eyes on this person before they fucking, do some things I've thought about once or twice.
It's such a weird time for people who are creators to be able to put things out but potentially not get any exposure.
Yeah. And
it's so strange.
It's a real uphill battle.
Well, because it's not talent or merit based necessarily. It's mostly about persistence, it seems.
Persistence, yeah, consistency, which I feel bad if I can't, like, I mean, I've got fucking terabytes of footage and shit that I can put out, but I want to make sure it's quality before I put it out, and
Right.
It's that kind of thing where it's like, I know if I could fucking pump out a schedule, take a day to just schedule a bunch of clips on, these different platforms to go out. But, I want to make sure they've got like the fucking, I don't want it to be garbage, because part of this whole thing is, I'm a filmmaker and that's part of the thing is to show like, oh, this is film, to an extent. The Snide show is meant to just kind of be a mouthpiece of the whole organization and kind of keep that consistency and stuff. But that idea, again, it grew and now we're scaling it back. But even with what little I do with this format, it's really there's a struggle there with where we talk very freely on this show. I like to mix it up between the heavy topics, the lighter affair, irreverence is a big part of this whole thing. And that leaves it open to controversy. So we've for some reason I've upset a few different platforms. There's the TikTok one. I've had to make a couple of different Snide Studios accounts, and that was a setback in itself. Again, you never know why with these things. You just get an email and you're like, You're out. Like I had it happen with an eBay, and I'm like, what? Like I don't know why I could be like blacklisted on eBay. Like what the fuck? And then
Are you
on
selling illegal Pokemon cards?
dude, it is the most like, you know, it's chords I accidentally ordered. You know, it's like it's like, you know, a DV chord because I don't actually have anything that a DV goes to, you know, just shit like that. Coin collection stuff. But it was under the, you know, one of the company names that I use. The umbrella company of all of my stuff is Everscope Multimedia, and under that I've got Snide Studios, The Irreverent comedy. I've got Unforgiving Mountains, which is to be like prestige film, and you know that's stuff that I definitely I'm not going to do anything with until I have like the budget to do what's on the page with that stuff. And then I've got the contract and commission services, which is just me making shit like, you know, commercials and music videos and shit for other people. And I made an eBay under the Everscope multimedia thing because I'm like, oh, I'm putting up technology, I'm putting up media on here, pop culture memorabilia, that, you know, that fits under the media banner or whatever, you know, kind of bump up a little bit of whatever profit on there. And it was like within like 6 hours of making the account, it was like it sent me an email. It's like you're blacklisted. It was like don't even try to make another account. If you have an old eBay, don't even try to use that. And it's not like a scam or anything. You know, it's not like a fake email. It's, you know, it's got all the legit stuff in it. There isn't even a link to click in the email. They want to keep me off of eBay apparently. Like it's like I don't know what. You know, and I'll get to theories in a second of what is going on with some of this stuff. But and then fucking Instagram. I might have told you about this one, Joe. On Instagram, we got like a weird notice that was, you know, it was just kind of, it was basically like a shadow ban in so many words. And like on certain people's accounts, if you search Snide Studios, we won't even show up on Instagram. Like you have to already be, I guess, in that algorithm for it to even show up on your Instagram. And again, can't figure out why. You know, there's nothing that is indicated. All that I've gotten is a message that it's happened. It's like, hey, you've been limited or whatever. Some I can't remember exactly how they put it, but I've got like screenshots and stuff. So that was the second thing. So now TikTok, mysterious thing, fucking Instagram, mysterious thing, and then today, and let me just pull up my post because it was just like the best way to put it. Did you see this, Joe, on the Snide
I
Studios?
did see what you posted today about your monetization.
Yeah, so we just reached it, and I saw a couple weeks ago we were getting close to monetization and stuff. And what it is we're being our videos on Facebook are being seen enough that they're putting ads in it. But due to two different things, one is when we did that episode of New River Valley Squeeze, we had the clip from the Vavitch, and I knew that was going to get flagged, but I knew I was going to edit it out too. So like, you know, edit it out, put it back up, whatever, you know. But it did, like, during that live, it triggered something. It wasn't like a strike or whatever. It was just like, hey, you know, if you made money off of this video, NBC would get that money, you know. But today I got the first of all, it was two notifications. That's right, I put it down in the comments. So the owners of the clips that we use in Clip Chomp, that we do commentary on, most of the time they're muted even, like if they have music or something. And they're starting to have our videos monetized that have that kind of stuff, but the quote owners of these clips are collecting the revenue. So and they're not even the creators of the video. So for instance, there's Supercar Blondie and B Viral are the two that are collecting from the last Snide show live at Sharky's. And there are changes to the video because of a copyright match following actions reply to your video by be viral because it may contain 33 seconds of content they own. Ads were inserted in your video worldwide. Copyright content found from this timestamp to this timestamp. But the thing is, Be Viral and Supercar Blondie, if you go to their Facebook pages, these aren't videos that they own. They're reposting videos that they take from like Reels and TikToks. So they're not even like, so they're taking money that, whatever 20 cents I would get, like 20 cents or whatever. They're taking that and giving it to these other people that, quote, own this content, but they don't. Like, and so it's another weird hurdle in these platforms. You know?
That's very strange. I didn't realize, like, is this something that's happening like beyond this? 'Cause I haven't heard anything about this, and so many content creators use clips and splice themselves into a clip playing in the background.
Yep.
Does that
Yep.
mean like none of these people are going to be making money anymore?
So I I couldn't even find that this was like a new thing, like and my theory behind all of this is that it's not as if, unless there's some, the earlier stuff, unless there's just like a hater or whatever, but it's not as if I think a human is on the other side of it, but yeah, I think it is like, it's like some AI or robots are reviewing these videos and they're determining like, oh, Supercar Blondie put the first video version of this up on Facebook. They are the owners of that, it's yeah, but I've seen that this may be due to more implementation of those AI, because they're putting like language models in charge of this or whatever. They're putting like these like very simple that seem great AI, but they're not really, there's no logic to what they're doing. So it might be that. It might be that the AI is flagging it in this process, but when I even went through the appeal thing, all of the options for like essentially the truth like were grayed out. So the option that was like, oh, they were doing commentary on this, that was grayed out. I couldn't even click on that. It's like wait,
Mhm.
what? Like what is happening here? Like they're not even giving creators recourse to appeal this, but I don't know how much it's happening with these other creators because I mean I'm still seeing those reaction videos like you were talking about, getting like millions of
Right.
views. And once you get up into that echelon, you don't even rely on this monetization as much as you would be like fucking Magic Spoon or Me Undies or whatever. But it's
Yeah.
yeah, but it was just a milestone I was looking forward to. And also what it's kind of translating to me is that I'm extrapolating that this is just going to make that whole format problematic for my purposes, which is really disappointing because it requires a little less effort. It's also, it's a skill to make jokes about fucking these we're not just making faces at these videos. We're like making, in your case, slam dunks that are better than the video itself. So when it's it's disappointing. Again, it makes me feel like maybe I should keep moving in a different direction away from that kind of content anyway. It's just unfortunate because it's a format that's easy to be consistent with. Um, Also, I
Well,
feel
I have two thoughts.
yeah. Go ahead. Go.
My first thought is I need to start doing reaction videos with just my face, no words, facial reaction videos.
Do it. It's a thing. It's actually a thing. Like that is a thing. Like, which
Oh,
is
well, then I'm not going to do it because I want to be a pioneer.
oh
Or
no,
maybe I'll
Joe.
just dress up like a pioneer and do it.
Here's the way you pioneer it, Joe. You do it expressionless. No matter what the footage is, just totally deadpan. But
Be
you
the
still
Buster Keaton of Instagram.
yeah, and you're still like blinking, it's not just a picture of you, but you're like, blinking, you're still like, looking at it, but it's just totally deadpan. Yeah.
And my other thought is maybe this is happening to you because in a previous episode, you always investigate different conspiracy theories.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe one of them was right and you were onto something, and now they're just trying to fuck everything up, create
Yeah.
a disturbance to get you off of the track. And I don't know which conspiracy theory it was, but this is my new conspiracy theory.
What's funny is that the only one I've seen evidence for is the most ridiculous one, which was when I was making fun of the secret societies at schools at universities. Um,
Hmm.
and
You
I
think this is like the Bush family, Skull and Bones is shutting you down now?
yeah, man, because I did highlight like the reality that it is like a CIA pipeline. It's like a Boy Scouts for the fucking CIA. So maybe it was that. Maybe it was like or
Yeah, and
no.
then your eBay got shut down.
Yeah. Well, so that one was definitely just an AI bot or whatever, and I did see that that happens to other people, but it did also make me wonder if it is somewhere in the tags of all this infrastructure, AI has connected Snide Studios and Everscope Multimedia, even though the whole point is that like it limits liability and association. It's the whole this belongs to this, but it doesn't actually represent its views or whatever. Even though it's the same fucking person. But yeah, yeah, yeah. So maybe it is like it knew like oh Snide, and I think the Snide Studios thing because part of it too. I did I'll speculate, but I don't know what to believe. I did Oh, I forgot to mention one of the weird Facebook things we got on Snide Studios, and this was like a year or so ago, or actually maybe more, maybe a year ago, when I was working more with Bear Dance, and when I was pitching to different uh, potential sponsors of the Snide Show Live there. One of the people I talked to was an owner of a vineyard around here. I won't say which one. Who was like, I was in the middle of the pitch, very professional kind of pitch, and he was just, oh, like, that weed shit. You want to like talk and like smoke weed and shit? And I'm like, of course, my face just red, and I'm like, I mean, that's an oversimplification, I would say. And he's like, oh no, no, none of that. And then
As opposed to if you would have done it while drinking wine,
that was the thing
which
that I
probably would
was
have been
like,
okay.
what the fuck are you talking about? Like fucking Hoda and what's her face on Good Morning America, like fucking drink wine and fucking like what are you talking about? Like Joe Rogan
I'm glad
now,
you
like
said
it's
what's her face because I just talked about the Bush family and the Skull and Bones, and you just conveniently couldn't remember Jenna Bush's name.
that's so funny. Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's just like that's great. Oh my god, I gotta clip that. That's so funny. That would be such a good little like uh uh trailer. But yeah, the yeah, it's such a hypocrisy and such a weird thing. And it turns out their kid, not to narrow this down more, but is an actor and is like super unpleasant on social media. I'll leave it at that. The kind of unpleasant on Facebook. Like, just like, are you trying to wreck your career saying this shit, dude?
And like we live in such a weird time where when I was younger, it seemed like people who were in the public eye felt some type of responsibility
Mm,
to like make sure the bar is high enough for the people who look up to them who are younger to be like, yeah, I want to be like them. They're a good person.
right.
And now it's just like, oh, that guy's an asshole and he's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a weird. Yeah, it's all about like counterculture and stuff like that. But yeah, but it's so much hypocrisy too, though. Just again, because it's like the folks at another organization I tried to work with recently, it was like, oh, we want to attract more young people. And then when I brought the young people, it was kind of like, oh, well, not those young people.
We want the mainstream young people that live a certain lifestyle that we agree with, not,
Mm,
people who are individuals.
exactly, exactly. And that's, ugh. Just a million ughs. A million ughs.
Well, I
Um,
mean, we come from a time where people are grouped by age and the things they associate with, and if you're in an age group and you're not into the stuff that the average person of your age is, it's like you're kind of useless to somebody who's trying to sell you a product.
right, right, right. I think you're really hitting hitting the nail on the head there, because that is really, yeah. And not unlike some things that my lady has said about some of this stuff, where it is, yeah, yeah. I couldn't say it better. Um, so yeah, so that is to say, I'm gonna change a little bit of the format here. We're gonna stick to like these remote sessions, kind of, minimizing the graphics and video, because I don't want to be using some video or graphic that someone doesn't like, or whatever. Um, and we're gonna, just get back to this being more of what a podcast is, where it's folks talking, and we'll have, some structure to it and everything, but we got to do what we can with what we have, and I refuse to stop. I refuse to stop. you know. Um,
And the only downfall is I've been doing a Rubik's Cube this entire show so far, and nobody's getting to see it. I mean, I haven't finished it yet. I'm just kind of
oh,
messing around with it, but eventually I'm going to get it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'll tell you guys
But
when I do.
you know what? This is the magic. This is the magic of this format, where I just pictured you. You're talking to me, you're sitting back, and you got this Rubik's cube, but it's like going like hyper speed, but you're still casually talking. You know what I'm saying? like
I'm,
like
I'm doing it with one hand.
there you go. See, and then this is the theater of the mind, folks. The original film. This is what film was before before the moving pictures. You had someone with the last name Wells talking to you, making you believe foolish things and think foolish thoughts.
That's right where my mind went too, is like how stupid people used to be when the somebody could come on the radio and be like, aliens have landed and they're attacking us, and they're like, oh my god, and they actually believed that it was real because it was on the radio.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, they missed that first couple minutes or whatever, the disclaimer.
Uh,
But it's not.
It's still kind of where we are. I mean, like a few
Yeah.
days ago, there was a big rumor that TikTok was being taken off of the internet, and it was down for like 4 hours. But
Right.
it created this whole big stir and a big story, and
Big
then it
distraction.
was a story of heroic new president coming in and saving us all by letting us dance to Chinese media.
Dude, that homie did not like a few years ago. That homie had
Yeah,
a
called for the ban and then saved it like goddamn Superman swooping in, making all the little 8-year-old kids love him.
I
It's marketing. Everybody has to be able to appeal to different people.
oh
You
yeah.
see it happen with the highest level of celebrities,
Oh
like Snoop
yeah.
Dogg.
Going back to like what you're saying, it all goes back to the money, 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 money. Because
Hmm.
it's all about the bottom line. The truth doesn't matter, feelings don't matter, perspective doesn't matter, nuance doesn't matter, reality doesn't fucking matter. It's all about who's got the money, where the money going, where the money come from. And you know what? You know what? They got me playing into their mindset, because it really is dictating a lot of what I and my colleagues are doing.
I guess I'm too old and stubborn to fall. I'm resisting it with
Yeah.
every muscle in my body, and that's why I'll never be successful today.
Oh,
Because you can't turn against the tools that people are using to be successful, and I'm still going to resist it.
but we must adopt the tactics of the enemy. We'll,
Yeah, I'm just not good at self-promotion, and right now that's how everything works
they have
on
adopted the
on every level of society. It's all optics and perspective of what other
Mm,
people see, and if you're not good at presenting yourself online a certain way because you're too honest, it's not gonna you're not gonna be as successful. You're not gonna get as many eyes on you. You're not gonna create the controversy necessarily that gets you the reactions that lines your pockets with that sweet social media money.
sure, sure. But you know what? You know what? We gotta embrace the anxiety, consume the cringe, and submit to the snide. Because there is a community that is growing around here of just amazing artists that I mean, you open up. Have you seen? I mean, this is actually super local to me, but check out fucking some of these zines coming out. There's one around us in the Christiansburg Blacksburg area that it's 16 blocks, and this guy Hart Fowler putting out like this really cool magazine. I really want to work with this organization that they got going on because it is there are some amazing artists, but we have to capture them, and we have to fucking get them fucking in the pocket for confidence and breaking out of that fucking these echo chambers that we got going on, to fucking forge a new one, forge our own fucking volume, our own fucking world that if it's fucking I was about to say it's Neverland for a specifically Peter Pan reference. Strike that. Strike that. Strike that. It is a totally different world based on faith and and good times and but no, it's all faith based, right? The only reason these fucking pigs out here on these sites and in these weird echo chambers they have created, they bank on that kind of that lack of confidence if the make it or break it thing, and if you don't fucking assimilate, you get left on the wayside, and they are banking on that. That is the whole purpose of these psychological operations that they have going on out there. Fucking not to get let the info scat out of the poop tube before it's ready, but that is part of how it all works under. You go back and look at Project what was it, Mockingbird, Operation Mockingbird, was that it? You know what I'm talking about, right, Joe? The CIA fucking infiltrated civil rights movements to fucking stir them up to fucking
Oh yeah, they did a movie about that too.
mm,
Um, it may have been Operation Mark. I honestly don't remember the name, but I know what you're talking about.
yeah, or well, no, Mockingbird was the one where they infiltrated like the New York Times and shit like that, and they were like,
But they
subtly.
generally try to sow dissent in any group that disagrees in some kind of way. Like I guess now they don't necessarily have to send like spies and specific people in because it can all be done digitally. Everything can be done online to
Exactly.
undermine.
Exactly. And now with AI, specifically large language models, they can just be like, get rid of this philosophy. And then, like, a slow drip in Google will be like, let's suppress those. Let's put those in the back 100 pages.
Hmm.
Things related to X philosophy, which they used to have to do this with like think tanks. Like, for example, I've been hearing this one go around that's started. I don't specifically know where it started. It's probably a confluence of many different think tanks, but there has been, and let me know if you've seen this too. It seems very similar to the pro bully adversity builds character philosophy, where they're saying war is crucial for evolution. Have you heard this yet?
I think I've heard the philosophy. I think it's an old philosophy
Well, the
about uh, about conflict and war.
mhm.
But I mean, there's socially. I mean, we just celebrated Martin Luther King Jr. Day. There's a total nonviolence movement
Yeah,
based around progressing our society through peace.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I guess the fact that there are people who believe that it's a necessity to have war means that we'll just never have that peace.
Right. So you're right that it's totally an old. It's again a confluence of many different ideas. Where part of it is like the evolutionary biological thing, and then also applying it to geopolitics today, which that's the big thing I'm seeing now. Is like anytime anyone's like, hey, maybe we should like ceasefire, like hey, maybe we should try to like work this out. Now the new thing is like, well, we have to have war. We have to have war. The fucking Velcro microwaves. Come on, we gotta have war. But now it's but my from my perspective, my kind of like humanist thing is like, and this is what I say to the people who are like pro psychopath too, where it's like, hey, empathy's a bad thing. These are actually the more evolved people or whatever. No, empathy is good. Empathy is how you have cooperation, society, how people get along for a greater good. Like you have to have empathy for that, and and so extrapolating from that, like what would be great about humanity is that despite our fucking biological evolutionary history, to find a better way than conflict, and overcome that, like, in a very fucking Star Trek way. That's the fucking ticket right there, guys.
Yeah, I mean, there's a fine line between accepting what you think is supposed to be the baseline of humanity and reaching beyond that. It's like I'm sure there was
Mm.
a time where most human-like things were like cannibals and like, and then you're like, oh wait, we probably shouldn't eat each other.
Oh man,
And then we evolved.
when I stab people in the gut, it kind of makes my gut hurt.
I mean, I guess that wasn't a thing for a lot of people though.
Yeah, well, yeah.
It's not. I mean, I've never been in a fight. I can't imagine punching somebody in the face as hard as I can
Mm.
because I've not been pushed to that point, but just as a, like my general operations, I just can't. That's just not the kind of person that I am. So I'm very much with you on that. Like the idea of like stabbing somebody like, in the stomach. Yeah, that probably hurt my stomach too.
Like I've gotten angry to where I've had like angry thoughts, but the moment that like anything in me is like I'm going to do something, I I biologically kind of shut down, And like I'm sure there are fucking alpha assholes out there that'll argue like, oh, well, see, that's what's great about psychopathy. It's like you can just do
Yeah, you
it
can ignore that. You suppress that,
and get
and
yourself
then you're able to
killed.
punch somebody in the face.
Yeah, and then get yourself killed, like, and so it's a whole mixed bag over like, you know some psychopaths fucking survived the caveman days, and then other people with other people with empathy like survived through cooperation, and that's how we all are here today. I don't know how to begin to define objectively what is better than what in history, because obviously that's what got us here. But I know that moving forward in a world where we have things like nuclear weapons, perhaps the going with option B is the better way. Perhaps.
Oh, I mean, we tried the other way, and it made the entire world have that bad feeling in their stomach,
Yeah. Right.
and it
Right.
never did it again. Uh, you
Right.
know, there's always the chance in the next few years that something Hurts
Yeah.
all of our stomachs again.
Well, different groups are being, you know, it's such a mess. But so that was essentially the slice of life for the studio. Joe, tell us what's new in your world.
Oh, not much. Just the last time we spoke, I had just gone through the Hurricane Helene situation where the
Mm,
town I live in, Damascus, had gotten flooded.
mm.
And we've been recovering here. And personally, in my business, I've been recovering and rebuilding and getting new equipment and preparing to reopen. And everything's looking good.
Right on, man. I am so glad to hear that. I really am. Like that was such a devastating thing to see, even from like the outside perspective. So I'm feeling great relief for you, your family, your community. Um, and I'm glad that fucking you're not in a FEMA concentration camp. Imagine that.
Yeah,
You
they did
fucking
offer us one, just the Jews in the community. So it would have been me and four other people, three of which I'm related to.
right on. Yeah, I could see where, I mean, you could make it a good time, if someone's got a violin or something, but um yeah, no.
I've always wanted to see, there's like a Jerry Lewis movie where he plays a clown who was in a concentration camp who made the people laugh.
Oh, I've
And
seen like clips.
I really want to see that movie.
Yeah, right. Oh my God. Is that like lost media? Is that like can is that out? Like can you like get
I
that?
think
Or
it's
is
one
it
of those things you can find it, but it's really obscure and hard to come across.
right? Like was it like Silo or yeah,
There was
there's
something about
a whole
it was he was like a doctor or something, and he dressed up like a clown in the concentration camp.
yeah, yeah. Um man.
Gonna remake. We should remake that movie together.
Oh, right, right. But base it like in a North Carolina and like FEMA camp situation, like kind of like taking that whole uh hysteria seriously. Oh man. The
We just
sets
go
would be
film it in Asheville.
yeah, and the sets would be, I mean, it'd be really simple. Like, you just put
They're
up some
still
tarps
rebuilding.
and yeah, yeah. And fucking entrepreneur brain, I'm like, we could probably find some like organizations there that might, we could do it in some way that it's like mutually beneficial, you know. Some of the proceeds go to them, they let us film around there. But something
It's
again
just
tells me that they
it's
may
just
not.
crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Just would have never imagined, because I'm from Miami, would have never imagined a hurricane hitting the mountains.
Whew.
It
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
it was like it was chasing me, and it took 10 years to get me.
Yeah, yeah, you just kept moving north and into the mountains, and then but no, the fucking
And the weather found a way from Florida.
yeah. Well, did the weather find a way, or we'll get to some theories here in a minute with topical punch. I've got a little mini info scat. There's something there. But my slice of life, just real quick, personally, that was all professional earlier. Our Flag Means Death, great show. Sucks that it was canceled. Everyone out there, go watch it. Fucking petition to have it put back on. It's an amazing show. Had great views, great reviews. I don't know what they were thinking canceling it. Have you seen this show, Joe?
I watched the first season and enjoyed it very much. I'm a huge fan of Reese and Taka and like the guys from New Zealand.
Mm-hmm.
Been aware of them for a long time, Flight of the Concords and stuff. I have not seen the second season. I've been saving it until I'm in need to like binge something.
It's you. Well, that's good because I am disappointed that I finished it. I'm probably gonna watch it again. It's so good, and well, no, actually, I have three episodes left. Sorry, I have three episodes left. And I am trying to savor them, but we keep resisting the binge. But it's hard. It's hard because they go so quickly. They're 30-minute episodes. They go so quickly. Um, there's a whole rabbit hole as to why it got canceled. I'm not gonna humor a lot of that. Hollywood does this shit, but it's there are weird controversies with that. So folks, go look into that. Go Google "Our Flag Means Death" canceled, and it'll come up. You'll find it. You'll find it. It's very strange, but the whole Warner Brothers network is making a lot of questionable moves. Has been, um, yeah. Yeah. Go support the show. Hopefully they'll pick up more episodes somewhere else because it's one of those shows that it feels like they could just keep doing.
It's so weird how shows get picked up and dropped. And was it a social? I'm not aware. I didn't even know it got canceled. Is it a
Mm.
social thing?
It is. It's the nature of the show. They think again. It's so much speculation that's like I can't definitively say why they did it, but the speculation, yeah, is that the theme of the show, which well, I kind of don't want to spoil it for folks that haven't watched it because it's a slow boil. There are certain themes going on in the show that you will not be made aware of for a few episodes, and it's done in a way that's not hitting you over the head with it. It doesn't feel fake. It doesn't feel stereotypical. It feels very genuine. And when you look into the history of these pirates, very possible. Like this might be some of the most close to like kind of the dynamics that were going on back then. Because pirates mainly seemed, I mean, they were the punks of the day, they were the gangsters of the day and stuff, but they were the outcasts, outcasted for many reasons. And the show explores a lot of this stuff in a fun way, kind of in the same way that What We Do in the Shadows explored, like, kind of like gothic culture in a realistic kind of like way, like, where it's like you have to you have to realize that if Anne Rice's vampires existed today in our absurd world, what that would look like and how weird that would look like, as cool as Amazon's made it look with their new shows, which are really cool and also pretty cool and gay. But um, it's genius. It's genius. It's happy. They're doing something with the writing that's on a lot of different levels. Like you said, you're familiar with Taika, so you know they do this. They're very clever motherfuckers. Um, yeah. So folks, they kind of slow boil it on you, and by the end of the show, you're like, holy shit! I see why the font is pink. But that's really cool, and they do it in a very punk way, that is again very genuine. Like I mean, like if you actually like have like gay people in your life that aren't from like Southern California, you know, or like New York City, or like these places where they can just like let it fly, again, it's genius. Watch it. It's also you could kind of watch it from the perspective of it being in the Pirates of the Caribbean universe. There's something like
I think describing it as punk is a good way
oh yeah.
of doing it, because it's such a people have such a view in their head of what a pirate is,
Mm-hmm.
and that might be part of the problem, because there's like a lot of machismo and a lot of guys who are
Oh
too insecure to accept anything
yeah.
other than this idea that they have of what something is supposed to be.
Yeah. 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 Exactly. Exactly. Man, very well said. So, folks, yeah, check it out. Check it out. Check it out. Moving on to topical punch. So I sent you the outline there. So we're gonna contrast here what's going on with the LA fires. So this is one part topical punch, one part info scat. Okay, because I'm just gonna cut right to the chase. Do you see where I'm? Can you see where I'm headed with this, Joe?
Hmm.
I think what we're seeing is some real life fucking, how do you put it, like heat miser versus well, I can't think of shit who's a water based superhero. um
I mean, for us, I mean, right now it's like Jack Frost, because
sure.
we had inches of snow here. It's been
Hmm.
unseasonably cold,
Hmm.
and I said online, I think it's just God's way of protecting us from these liberal wildfires.
Right, right. Exactly. Yeah, right. And what I think is going on is that So the liberals attacked the South with Hurricane Helene with their elitist weather control machines that we all know exist, right? We all know these weather machines exist. So that
I
and
can
the
confirm as a Jew.
and the chemtrails. Yeah, right. Yeah, the Zionist fucking Hurricane Helene. Um, oh my god. And so what has happened, folks? What has happened, and what we have seen happened, is that in return, fucking, we got some good old boys out there in Southern California, fucking tossing some Marlboros around. Stirring up a little bit of, to fill in the metaphor there.
You think some good old boys loaded up a Camaro with a meth lab and drove it across country to
Yeah,
a redwood forest and just blew it up?
yeah. Exactly. So that at least from my perspective, that's what I mean. From my, excuse me if it sounds a little beyond the realm of possibility, but if you go on TikTok, that's not my idea. People think that. So moving on. Uh, no. So you're another user of cool media. Are you a Neil Gaiman fan?
Yeah. Comic books and movie adaptations, TV shows. I read some of his books way back in the day.
Oh yeah, totally
Oh,
a
what's
figurative one.
I can't right now. I just poured water for my cat, so my brain's not working. What's the the show he had with the angels and the demons and Bad Omens? I read that book a
Yeah,
long time ago to the point where I forgot about it, and then when the show came out, I was like, oh, and I don't remember any of it. So I
yeah.
mean,
I mean, great writer,
I guess
great.
he's not my favorite author, but
Sure,
I've
sure,
enjoyed
sure.
some of his work.
It can be like it's very auteur. His perspective is definitely his perspective. But sometimes I do get him confused with a much better writer, Grant Morrison. Who is also like a similar kind of like vibe and whatnot, and not just because they're both from the UK. Okay, folks, not just because they're both from the UK, but no, it's I think Neil Gaiman does like kind of I don't know if oversold. I don't want to insult him just because of the allegations, um, the which I haven't gone super like I haven't looked very far. It's so um the shoot I had it up but I can't find. I had more notes about this. I also have more notes about the wildfire thing, but I can't find those notes. So, but yeah, so it's very similar to like what happened with Chris Hardwick, Army Hammer. Are you familiar with those cases
Hmm.
where you
Yeah.
had the? Sorry, are you about to say
I,
something?
it, oh, yeah, I was just gonna say it just seems like the difference though is Neil Gaiman has had more and more as he's denied the allegations that are being presented, like more and more women have been coming out.
Yeah.
And I don't think Chris Hardwick had like a large bevy of women who were like, yeah, this guy's a piece of shit.
True. I think he had just the one.
Just the ex, yeah.
Yeah. But what the similar thing with all of these cases, folks, is that all three of these cases, and the Army Hammer, probably the creepiest, but also maybe the least of one that actually happened. So the they all have kind of been guilty of these acts where it seems like very kind of BDSM things going on without the consent. Like just kind of being like having these crazy sexual expectations and just kind of pushing himself on for Neil Gaiman's case it was the babysitters, right? It was kind of like a series of nannies.
Hmm.
where it just anytime no one else was in the room, or sometimes when like the kid was in the room, was just like, hey, do this wild sexual act. And obviously, in their case, and I think some of them were like straight up like, no, I don't want to do that. But like, there's also just a great power imbalance there where like also just it's such an absurd thing. I could see where someone might be like, if I go and would they believe me if I fucking went and told like what he wants me to do? Like, you know?
Yeah. No, and I saw something earlier today where somebody said snitching is the worst thing you can do.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's this whole culture of suppression of this stuff.
And so I commented on that person's post about how terrible snitching is. I'm like, yeah, remember that, victims of crimes. Next
Right?
time you get raped, snitching is bad.
Ugh,
Don't ever tell. It's just,
ugh.
I don't know. We're in such a weird place socially where there is a culture of snitching being bad, but then there's so many terrible people doing things. Like, there's got to be justice somewhere. Can't just let people get away with things because they have a level of power, or you think like they're contributing something great to the culture, so we give them a pass.
Yeah. Yeah. And going back to, and this is something I talk about a lot on this show with psychopathy, or these people that with these antisocial kind of things. Going talking more about the predators is that there is this, they are rewarded for being overly confident, rewarded for being dogged about their persistence, like you said, persistence. They're able to
Hmm.
shut down inhibitions and just fucking do things. And sometimes those things are great works of art. Some
Right.
sometimes it's a surgery. Sometimes, I mean, like there's a big thing of like, like there's a large, and this isn't saying all surgeons are psychos or anything like that, folks. So calm down. There is a high degree of people in the surgical field that have less empathy, and it makes sense for like if you're gonna cut a motherfucker up, like
Right.
your mirror neurons. Again, going back to like, oh, I kick someone, I kind of feel like I've been kicked. They don't have that slicing into someone. Um,
Right.
People like Neil Gaiman, Bill Cosby, Harvey Weinstein. I mean, I don't want to sound like like everyone else that, but these are the big ones where they've just been able to just have successions of like people that they just fucking like a revolving door of victims. Yeah, so
It's so strange how some people get unchecked power, and it's just like, even if it's just a small taste of it for a short while, and then they become monsters. But like, I wonder, is that something that those people have in them anyway, or is it something that the things that they've been exposed to, like the privilege that they have now, makes them feel like they are able to like transcend like the laws of man?
I've done a little bit of research on this for a different very serious project, a documentary I'd like to produce one day, or maybe even docu-series about this kind of thing. And it seems like it's a mixture of three different things, and two of those are nature, one of those is nurture. So sometimes with these people, and now I am overgeneralizing, people like rapists, serial killers, bad business people that like make like Bernie Madoffs and what have you.
People with bad ethics.
Yeah, predators, and specifically the psychopathic ones. There is generally, on the nature side, genetic predispositions. There are a collection of genes known as the warrior genes, and it's a crazy amount, like a crazy selection of genes. Some of them are also what they call the daredevil genes. These genes, some of them, you get a high amount of dopamine along with adrenaline. Like when you get an adrenal response, you get a dopamine response. Now, Joe, something
Hmm.
tells me you're something like me where when you get an adrenaline spike, tummy upset. Because
Generally.
that's me. Like when I don't like adrenaline, I don't like that kind of stuff. Now, you know, I don't like risky behavior unless, of course, like roller coasters, what have you. I'm sure this is something that exists on a spectrum. Then there's also one where it's just less inhibitions. Like you just that part of your brain that has inhibitions and impulse control is just not there. And some of this overlaps with like addiction and stuff. And so again, not to say
Hmm.
that all of these genes are turned on all at once. It's you have so many of these genes out of so many of them that kind of makes you more of an antisocial person. There are these genes that again the risky behavior trying to think there are more. So folks, if you Google daredevil genes, warrior genes, like you'll find this whole rabbit hole. But what's funny, and this is why you got to be careful, and it's I remember a geneticist told me about this, but the another one of these genes that in this set, when it's turned on, it's the gene for male pattern baldness. So it's like,
Oh, great.
right, which again is not to say like all bald people are psychos or whatever, but it's like there's this big mix of genes, and that's why it's so chaotic and hard to predict and hard to really you know do any pre-crime on or what have you. These so there are those genetic predispositions to being a psychopath, and then there are the nurture, which is trauma, is a big thing.
Hmm.
Just any kind of trauma, I mean, people are like,
Majorly.
oh, it's mother trauma, oh, it's father trauma, oh, it's divorce trauma. It's like, nah, it's just trauma, brah. Trauma not good for the brain, brah.
Right.
You know.
I mean, my wife's a special ed teacher, and like this, a lot of the programs
Mm,
that they have in both Virginia and Tennessee, they lump children who have like neurological disorders or autism with kids who are like major behavior
which is
problems
so
and
bad for
kids
them.
who, right, yeah, they just lump it together. And a lot of the kids who have those kind of like like psychotic and
Hmm.
like like being a sociopathic type,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
like
yeah,
you're saying, it is a lot of it is genetic, but
yeah.
every single one of those kids has had trauma also. Trauma
Right,
is
right.
always a part of that equation.
Exactly, exactly. Not everyone that goes out and commits crime has trauma, but chances are, if you commit crime, you have had trauma. Like not every what I'm saying, or did I say that? Not everyone that has trauma commits crime, but
There you go.
people that commit crime more than
Have
likely
all had
have.
trauma.
Hey, use take two. Just like I'm talking over to the side of someone. But yeah, yeah,
It's like even if somebody hasn't been abused or mentally, like neglected in some way, there's always something.
yeah,
There's financial problems growing up that it doesn't have to be you were abused by your parents or
yeah, yeah,
something horrible happened. It could be something that other people would think is like nothing, but
yeah.
that's your trauma and that's the shit that you carry and it's the thing that affects you.
Exactly, exactly, exactly. Which brings us to our third, my third kind of metric here for what I see as how these things happen, especially when it comes to like the rich and powerful, is there's another word that goes on to this, but it's a form of empathy gap. Now, empathy gaps exist in many different forms. One big example is like in authoritative settings. Like if you someone's responsibility is to be authoritative over another group of people, there is going to arise an empathy gap, and that's just the nature of how that sociologically happens when you have a group of people responsible for another group of people. They're going to have to like they not to say they won't empathize with them, but there's a degree of separation that in certain cases, you know, you will see empathy diminish again when you have other things like we've been talking about. You know, this is a gumbo where it requires, you know, let's say 3 out of 5 ingredients. And, you know, so you're not always going to see a cop not have empathy for, you know, a perp or what have you. But generally, you will probably see a gap there. This empathy gap, the the biggest one is I think it's the capital empathy gap or monetary empathy gap, maybe monetary empathy gap, where the more money that you have, you will have less empathy at large. Like that's just a thing that we've known since like the fucking 1950s. It's why the game Monopoly even exists. Another rabbit hole, folks. Go Google it. Is to
I
study
hope
this.
I hope one day to get to the point where I can afford not to give a fuck.
Like just not like yeah. And so going to, you know, so you can see why someone like a Neil Gaiman, who maybe, you know, we don't know, let's take Gaiman out of it, but let's just say, you know, let's put a straw man there of to represent like it, a sexual predator who's like rich and powerful. Like maybe they weren't always going to be that, but some of this stuff that we're talking about happens. You know, they have some kind of trauma, usually sexual trauma, or they were like an incel who like this is how they found a way. You know, that's what you saw. I think with if you look really hard, like I think that's kind of what happens with dudes like Cosby. Let's not say it's Cosby specifically, but there is like a certain population that they had a hard time getting laid, and then they fucking put, you know, the makeup on their face and started, you know, fucking shredding guitar and it wrote Beth, and now they can fucking, you know, exploit that power and money for sex. That's not bad, right? Inherently it's not bad. Like there are ways where it could become bad in situations where you have someone who doesn't have empathy and gets a large amount of dopamine and serotonin and other oxytocin, good feeling chemicals from being a monster. So
They also
you
could have trauma associated with women,
mm,
and now because they're in a different position, they have like a lot of bitterness and hatred towards women, and
yeah,
it comes out sexually because that's
yeah, yeah, yeah,
where they
yeah.
can take advantage.
I think you're right. I think you're right. Like from the aspect of males, because you know, I mean, I'm not going to say that. I mean, 9 times out of 10, this is a male thing, but you know, sometimes you see it happen in other ways on the other, when the shoe's on the other foot, but you're not going to see it happen generally in these violent, monstrous ways. So I think you're right that there is a big kind of component there of
Well,
that.
that's just the first thing I thought of when you talked about like the incel. Was like, well,
Mm.
now, well, yeah, now they're getting women, but they have like a bitterness because they have to do this other thing to get women. They couldn't just get women before.
Right,
Take
right.
that hatred out.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know. As an incel, that's just what my thought was.
um, um, the it, it's yeah, because it's there is a big component there are the pathos, that's the word I was looking for, pathos there, especially from the modern perspective of like what we're seeing happening in these communities like 4chan and shit like that, of just like people that just with the wildest ideas of I don't know. That's a whole other rabbit hole. But give one of those motherfuckers $1 billion and Netflix deal, and yeah, I could see where that would formulate some of these behaviors. Absolutely, absolutely. Um, yeah. So yuck. just a second. Let me see if I can find the notes for this. Because that actually we did want you actually wound up filling in some of the gaps there. So I've got one more story here. Um, there's a conflict in my area between UVA and their transplant center and Carillion, which is the big. Do y'all have Carillion over there, Joe?
No, but I come up to Roanoke for Carillion for my daughter.
Oh, okay, okay, yeah. It's Carillion. People can say what they want about the organization, but they are what they are, and they have the medical resources in this region for the most part. They are a very acclaimed for many different reasons. I would say they're not as bad, because there are some controversies, of course, with things like overcrowding and administrative things, but they're not as bad as, say, a Lewis Gale, which is for profit, whereas Carillion is I believe not for profit. They're seeking to establish a kidney transplant center at Roanoke Memorial Hospital, aiming to address the healthcare needs of patients in Southwest Virginia. One of those are our very own AC Adam Cox, my cousin and lifelong creative partner. He's part of why we do all this. If you look at the old content, he was on here a lot more, and he's had a lot of medical issues due to his juvenile diabetes, and actually is facing kidney failure. And we were actually even looking into, I was going to fucking take mine out, pop it out, and give it to him, but I may not do great with just one. A lot of people do great with just one. I was told I probably wouldn't. So the he's on the list to get an exchange, either with living donors, or if he can find one, or actually a kidney pancreas dealio. They can do the whole dealio, and it'll even help with the diabetic situation. But the current nearest transplant facility is the University of Virginia hospital in Charlottesville, which is a 2 to 4 hour drive for many patients in this region. I mean, yeah, and there is some weird, again, it all goes back to fucking politics and shit. UVA Health has expressed opposition to Carillion's proposal, citing concerns about the necessity and potential impact on existing services. A staff analysis by the Virginia Department of Health previously recommended denying Carillion's application. In response, Carillion presented its case to the Virginia Department of Health's Division of Certificate of Public Need, emphasizing the growing demand for local transplant services. So there's this whole big thing trying to block it. Apparently there was a program in the 90s that they keep citing. Everything I have here is from Cardinal News, WSLS 10, those two sources. So there was one in the 90s that apparently didn't have a high enough demand, or they lost a surgeon. Actually, I can't find that part here. But yeah,
Is this just because UVA they don't want to lose the money?
bingo,
They
bango,
want to have a
boingo.
monopoly on this. They want to have a monopoly on the surgery so that people don't
Ba-ba-da,
have a cheaper alternative somewhere else.
ba-ba-da. You've won, Joe Bridges. Come on down. Yeah, that totally seems like what is happening.
Great. Now my eBay account's going to get suspended.
Yeah. Correctamundo. You are now blacklisted. Yeah, that seems to be what it is. It's a big money thing. They're afraid because, extrapolating again, them being like, hey, you guys couldn't handle this 30 years ago. Are you sure you still want that kind of makes me feel like part of their concern is that if that happens, they'll lose. You know, maybe there are more people around here that need kidneys than people around there, and they'll lose their program and funding and what have you. Yeah. So, and it really sucks because, again, I'm seeing it personally in my own life and how this kind of shit is. Because, I mean, AC, he's got 3 kids, he's got a wife, you know, he's got parents, brother, he's got, like, you know, these people that rely on him. We all rely on him, and you know, to see this kind of stuff, I mean, it's really hampering his ability to do things, just fighting this illness in itself, to compound that with these regular trips to UVA, you know, amongst these other, like, you know, medical stuff he's got to do. It's like, come on, guys, come on, like,
I hope
and this is
that in
thousands of
our
people.
lifetimes we get to see a drastic rehaul of the way people are cared for medically in this country.
Yeah.
Like it's so gross, and right now the pendulum is swinging so far towards just lining corporations' pockets that it's gonna have to come back the other way, and we're just gonna at some point have to fall into humanity and take care of each other instead of doing everything for a dollar.
Yeah. It can't continue to be the, like, the dollar cannot continue to be like the value of everything. Like, that is just a wildly wicked way to construct a society, especially a global society, on a national level, state level, any level. It's preposterous to be like, this one thing, this one imaginary fucking, this thing that supposedly is supposed to represent resources and value. I don't see how. I don't fucking see how. I don't see
Yeah,
how.
and it's not global. It's just an idea that we're trying to spread globally because so many other countries are just like healthcare is just a part of life and we're going to help you with that
Yeah,
instead of, like we live in a country where people die because they can't afford to pay a bill.
it's
They're
insane.
so worried that the bill's going to break them that they won't get a surgery,
Yeah.
and it's pathetic.
Yeah, yeah. And oh man, well, I could, that's just such a good, on that note, you know, we're seeing a little mini story here. We're seeing a similar thing happen with folks who are under the monopolies of these power companies, these coal-based power companies. In my neck of the woods, it's Appalachian Power. Who gives you your juice?
Oh, me, Appalachian. I had
Okay,
an
yeah.
issue with them. I got a ridiculous bill
Mm-hmm.
the first month that we had cold weather because unbeknownst to me, in the flood, all of my air ducts and my intake and everything are under my house. Water came in and disconnected some of my duct work. So when I had my heating on, my house wasn't heating efficiently, but apparently
Jeez,
under my house was, and I got a bill that was like over $600.
what the
And
fuck?
they were very adamant about not being able to do anything for me. And regardless of what happened, the power was used and I have to pay for it.
Oh my god.
So there was
Yeah.
yeah, there was no empathy from their company. And the people that I spoke to, because the company is large enough, were in Oklahoma. So they weren't even, because I said, "Oh, we got
Whoa.
we got hit with a storm and
Yeah.
all these things happened and the town I'm in was without power for quite a while and they had no idea what I was even talking about." So
Wow. Yeah. Because it's yeah, and it's funny because I'm seeing it on Facebook. You know, there are like whole groups now dedicated to just shitting on Appalachian Power. Because I mean, it's wild for a couple of different reasons. Because because they are still, you know, well, okay, I'll switch around. So because they are competing now more with renewable resources that other people are doing, especially with things like net metering and stuff. People are doing more solar now. They're doing more alternative, and yet they think B they need to have 6, 7, 8 fucking figure salaries. I'm sorry, but if your company is making less money, then administration needs to make less money. That's fucking like business 101, right? Like, isn't that like.
No, that's not business 101. What they're doing is business 101. Business 101 is essentially fucking the consumer to make the most profit possible. We're in a time of like the worst corporate greed ever, with the way inflation is and the goods and services that we receive being the same, but the prices being, double what they were 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Like it's unreasonable. And what's going to end up happening is we're going to end up destroying our currency, because it's gonna have no value.
Mm-hmm.
What's is it's already at the point where people are spending so much on groceries. Like
Yeah,
the
man.
cost of eggs alone, like I'm a baker, the back and forth
Oh,
cost of eggs right now is like, it's
yeah.
crazy. It's unreasonable. And I mean, there was a shortage previously with eggs because of a bird flu where they had to wipe out
Mm-hmm.
millions and millions of chickens to prevent this illness from spreading. That I can understand. I don't think that's what's happening right now.
Right. Yeah. Because
But
it's
eggs are still, $7 for a dozen eggs.
yeah. Because well, I mean, there's what happens, and again, this is like some fucking business 101 shit that no one wants to respect anymore. That one thing you have to be careful when it comes to growth is the ratcheting effect, which is, a ratchet keeps tightening, it can't loosen. You keep expecting and building to have more and more and more when things are finite. There will eventually be that day where you gotta pull the lever back or whatever. But no, you've built infrastructure to where if you pull the lever back, it will all just crumble. Like
Right.
so hello. Like something's gotta give here. Like oh yeah.
But we're
And
we're also in this time where you have people investing their life savings into digital currencies that don't actually exist, and they're getting hosed and they're losing everything. And
And then get mad at
it's
poor
just
Haley
so
Hawktwa. Don't blame Haley Hawktwa. Blame fucking the nature of the beast.
yeah, but we're creating this beast. This is
Yeah,
something that, like what happened with the NFTs. At least that shit blew up in everybody's faces. A lot of
everyone
people
was.
lost money, a lot of people made money, but I
Yeah,
think most people realized how stupid it was and no longer participate in it.
yeah. Well, and a big thing is they forgot that there should have been function to these pieces that you got. It should have actually afforded you. But to your point, that's not the point of the people, the fucking demons behind the shit. But yeah, yeah, yeah. So so much digression, all the digression in the world, folks. We're giving it all to you. We just fucking put the biggest set of balls possible on the snide table for all of you to enjoy. And I hope that you enjoyed these sour, sweet, salty balls of entertainment. Joe, I couldn't have done it without you because I could not have. I mean, I would have quit a while ago with a red face if I was sitting here talking about all of this by myself. You brought the levity, Joe. You brought sanity, actually, I feel, at certain points. And I can't thank you enough. I hope that we continue to do more of these.
Absolutely. You can't spell levity without Levi, one of the key tribes of Israel.
Fuck yeah. I was in such a through that, like I was like on the swing and the swing started to go over the top of the swing set. I didn't know if I was going to make it down. I was like, "What? Where is this head Levi jeans?" And you brought it back and I fucking it was a wonderful ride. It always is with you, Joe. I can't thank you enough. Let folks know what you're up to, where they can find you.
Oh, well, you can find me online at Joe's Not Joking on most platforms. I guess Instagram, really just there. I am on TikTok, but I don't know if when this airs, if it's still going to exist or not. The
Or if,
back and forth of it all is just too much for me. I'll probably be stepping away from the platform, to be
ugh,
honest.
yeah, or if people are even going
Other
to be able
than
to see your
that,
shit, because yeah, it's so much suppression is going on there. But yeah, so let them know where
I
else they
just
can find.
gotta start learning dances, and then I'll make my resurgence back on TikTok doing
Yeah,
dances.
clean up the algorithm.
Other Otherwise, I'll be baking in my kitchen in Damascus, taking private orders from people, and showing up at Blue Ridge Comedy in Bristol Wednesday nights for open mic, and I'm there most weekends, honestly.
Fuck yeah, he's roasting, he's baking. Go fucking enjoy him, folks. Um, Again, I feel.
When he says roasting, he's talking about cannabis because my humor is very kind-hearted. I don't insult people.
But no, you do a little self roasted there, like I mean, I'm not saying
Oh
you're like,
yeah.
yeah, I'm not
Oh yeah,
saying,
I will
yeah.
destroy myself.
But no, yes, you are so kind and you're so awesome. I'm glad that you also are blessed with the miraculous empathy. And let's continue to use it on this cynical bullshit, folks. Again, I hope you enjoy this. I hope you enjoy more of this. This was the Snide Show, and you all should stay snide.